Today I'm going to talk about the future CFO, from Scorekeeper to systems architect. When I started my career in finance, the CFO's job was pretty simple actually. We count the money, we report the numbers, we make sure the books are balanced, we stay out of the way of the people that are actually running the business. We kind of enable them, but we enable them by providing some of the financial metrics that matter in the long run. That CFO does not exist anymore, or if they do, they're not very valuable. The CFO I've become, the CFO I believe every finance leader needs to become is something completely different. They are no longer just a scorekeeper, they are a systems architect, not someone who reports on what happened, someone who actually helps shape what will happen next. Over the course of several videos, we have talked about deal desk, we have talked about contracts, leads, retention, backlog, forecasting, system syncing, all of it, theory of constraints. Today, I want to step back a little bit and talk about what all of this means for the future of our profession. What does it mean to be a CFO in the world of revenue operations, let's say? And where are we heading? Where is all this heading? So let's get into it. I think, and again, I'm providing the architectural framework of what the system CFO is. The old CFO versus the new CFO. And I'll hopefully draw a contrast which will resonate with you. The old CFO, they take pride, they're backward looking, they tell you what happened last quarter, they explain the variances, they produce the reports, they close the books, they show where the money went, they establish some sort of controls, and that's pretty much it. The new CFO is largely forward looking. Yes, we still report in history, that's important, but more of our value comes from helping the company see around the corners. What is going to happen next quarter? What should we invest in? Where are the risks? And now where are the opportunities? The old CFO is told to stay in their lane. Finance is finance, sales is sales, marketing is marketing. Everyone did their own thing. And that is sometimes a rule that is set from the top, not smart. Because a new CFO, they have to operate to be successful across the entire business. We are in the room where marketing plans campaigns, we are partnering with sales on deal strategy, we are working with customer success and retention, and we see connections that others might miss because we are the only function that touches everything. Because everything has a financial impact, right? The old CFO will often say no, their job is risk management through rejection. Don't spend this, don't approve that deal, don't hire this person. But the new CFO, the system CFO, they find ways to say yes. We still manage risk, but that's not part of the job. But we do it simply by looking at alternatives. We are not just blocking requests. We can't do it that way, but what if we tried this instead is a question that we need to kind of think through. The old CFO was a technician. They know accounting rules and Excel formulas and GL and GAAP pretty well. They could close the books and produce the financial statements. The new CFO must be a strategist. They're chess players. Yes, we know the technical stuff, but we have to also know how to understand the fundamentals of the business, ask the right questions, and help leaders make better decisions in the company. This shift has happened gradually over my career, and it's accelerating. The CFOs who thrive in the next decade will be the ones who embrace this new role fully. So why do revenue operations matter for finance? And I'm sticking to revenue operations for now because I wrote a book about it. And I think it's a foundational aspect of any organization. And why does it matter? Why does it matter so much for this modern system CFO? Revenue is the lifeblood of any company. Without revenue, nothing else matters. You can have the best product in the world. You can have the best team, the most brilliant strategy. But if you cannot generate and retain revenue, you don't have a business. And revenue operations is where the rubber meets the road. It is where the strategy becomes execution. It's where all the pieces, all the go-to-market machine comes together. Either they come together or they fail together. So as a systems CFO, I can't just wait for revenue to show up and then count it. I need to understand how revenue gets created, what drives it, what threatens it, what makes it predictable, unpredictable. That's why I've spent so much of my time in these videos on topics that some people might think of as not finance, like MQLs. That's marketing, sales commit is sales, customer retention, that's customer success. But here's my view. All of it, a system CFO must know, because all of it affects the numbers. because all of it affects our ability to plan, to forecast, to allocate resources, to hit our targets. The CFO who says, that's not my department, is the CFO who gets surprised by bad quarters. But the CFO who understands that the whole revenue system is the one who sees problems coming, they are the ones who can do something about them. So this is why I believe so strongly in systems thinking. The revenue system is interconnected. What happens in marketing, they ripple through to retention. What happens in sales affects cash flow. What happens in customer success, they impact growth. The CFO is a natural person to see these connections because we are the ones, we happen to be the ones, the chosen ones that are measuring all of it. Seeing isn't enough. We have to act on what we see. We have to be in the room. We have to shape the decisions and not just report results, because that is only after the fact. So what are the skills that matter nowadays? What skills do a CFO need to operate that way? So let me share what I have learned. First, you need business acumen beyond finance. You need to understand sales. You need to understand marketing, product, operations. Not at the level of a specialist, but enough to have intelligent conversations, ask good questions, and spot problems. Now, I have invested a lot of time learning about things that are not traditionally finance. So I ask questions like, how does demand generation work? What makes a good sales process? How do SaaS metrics connect to each of the SaaS metrics? How do they connect? And this knowledge, it allows me to understand the business and become a better partner. Second, you need the data fluency, not just the financial data, but you need to understand operational data, product usage, pipeline metrics, customer health scores. The modern CFO, they swim in data from across the business. You need to be able to find insights in that data and not just report it. Third, you need good communication skills. The most brilliant analysis is useless if you cannot explain it. You need to be able to tell a story with numbers. You need to be able to translate complexity into clarity. And you need to influence people who don't report to you. That's very important, very critical. I've worked on this my whole career. It's not natural for everyone with a finance background, but it can be learned. And I've made mistakes along the way. Relationship skills is what is very important for a CFO, a good CFO. The CFO who is able to partner with sales, who is able to collaborate with marketing, who is able to support customer success teams, who is able to work with attorneys and deal desk, and they are the ones who will be able to influence and shape the destiny of the company. And building those trusts, it takes time, it takes showing up, it means that you have to be helpful, be a problem solver. Every interaction must be an opportunity to build trust, not erode it. And you need strategic thinking, not just analyzing the business as it is, but imagining what it could be, what investments would change our trajectory, what risks could derail us, what would it take to double our growth rate. The CFO should be one of the most strategic people in the company. They are the master chess players. We have the data, we have the cross-functional view, and all we need to do is just be ably use it. So where is all this heading? Let me share some thoughts on where I see the CFO role heading. First is the integration of finance and operations, and that will deepen eventually. The boundaries between finance and the business are blurring. CFOs will be expected to have opinions, informed opinions on marketing, on strategy, on sales process, on product roadmap, on customer experience. They need to have that understanding, not to take over those functions, but simply to contribute meaningfully. And I really mean meaningfully. Second, the real-time data will change everything. When I started, we closed the books monthly, and that was fast. Now, leading companies have real-time dashboards, and they show revenue, they show pipeline, they show retention, and those are constantly updated. That's great. But the CFO of the future, they operate in a world where the data is always available, but how do they action on the data? How do they use insights from the data to shape the destiny of the company? Third, AI and automation will handle the routine work, closing the books, producing the reports, doing all of the basic analysis. More and more of this will be automated. That will allow the CFO to focus their judgment on and strategy and relationships. The tactical work is shrinking. The strategic work is expanding. Fourth, the CFO will be a key voice on company culture. How we treat customers, how we treat employees, what do we value and what we don't. And these things are the ones that affect the numbers, and the numbers, they affect these things. The CFO who understands this connection will be able to build companies that are not just profitable, but more importantly, that they are sustainable. Finally, the best CFOs are teachers, helping others in the company to understand the economics and have the financial fluency and literacy across the organization. It helps everyone understand how their work connects to the value creation. Better decisions are made at every level. So what do I really hope you can take away from this session? Again, we have, like I said, we have covered a lot of materials over the last week and a half, but let me share what I hope you take away from all of these different elements. Revenue operations is a system. It's not fragments of a system. It's not silos, it's a system. The pieces are all connecting. What happens upstream, the effect goes and impacts downstream. What happens with customers today will affect growth tomorrow. You need to see the whole picture. And the CFO is in the center of it all, not on the sidelines, not waiting for reports. They're in the room, they're asking questions, they're interrogating events, they're shaping their decisions, they're partnering with every function. That is where we add the most value. Third, fundamentals matter. Deal desk discipline, contract integrity, lead quality, forecast accuracy, retention metrics, backlog visibility. These are not glamorous topics necessarily in and of itself, but they are the building blocks of a healthy revenue engine, a whole system coming together. Get them right as a system. And finally, keep in mind that the future CFO is a systems thinker, a systems architect. That's a superpower. Finding the constraint, understanding the connections, finding the bottleneck, resolving the bottleneck, optimizing the whole, not just the parts. And it is this way of thinking that will serve you in any situation and not just revenue operations. Fifth, build those relationships. Finance is a service function. Our job is to help others succeed. The CFO who builds trust, who partners genuinely, who finds ways to say yes, that CFO has influence far beyond their formal authority. Now, I have made mistakes in my past and I have fallen apart in companies that had different organizational hierarchy. But what I'm doing is I'm really sharing you based on my observations and my readings on what constitutes great organizations and what pathway is best for system CFO to grow and succeed. Keep in mind the 3 takeaways. The future CFO is no longer the scorekeeper, they're systems architect. We don't just report on the business, we help design how it works. We see connections others miss and we help the whole system perform better. Number 2, revenue operations is the CFO's natural territory. It is where the strategy meets the execution. Revenue is so important for the company, as you can imagine. It's where all the numbers come from. Understanding it deeply, it makes you indispensable. And number 3, never stop learning. Never stop learning. The skills that made you successful 5 years ago are not enough for the next 5 years. Stay curious, stay humble. Build new capabilities, invest in relationships. The best CFO is always growing. So thank you for taking the time to listen to me. I hope to see you in the next sessions. Take care. Bye-bye.